All right, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode, 103,000 subscribers episode of Ushanka Show live. Thank you for joining me today. I try to be a good boy and schedule in advance. I hope it will help more people to join. Please let me know if the sound is okay. Should be fine, but just in case, let me know if it's too loud, too quiet. But anyways, I'm open to your questions about life in Soviet Union. Well, looks like we got already 12 people join me, so thank you so much. Get ready. First comment. What do you think about YouTube being slowed and banned in Russia? Well, it's of course, if you're not aware, Putin regime had for a while had an issue with YouTube because, as you know, dictatorships they like monopoly on information, and YouTube provided alternative opposition information. So they were not comfortable with YouTube for a long time, and actually they created their own. Please let me know if the sound is okay. They created their own. It's called our YouTube, so Russian version of YouTube, and it wasn't going really well. Of course, you know, one of the main advantages of YouTube is all over the world, right? It's the world kind of like a video platform. While our YouTube, it's only Russia. You know, of course, Russia is the largest country in the world still, but population is pathetic. For the size of the country, it's only like 140 million, maybe. It's about the same as Bangladesh. So, of course, most people. Okay, so sound is good, great. Now we got some people joining us from UK. Thank you, Svetlana, for joining. Appreciate it. So yeah, they started slowing down YouTube. If you watch it on a computer, apparently it's become slow. You can't upload. You can't really watch videos. So you need to use VPN, which is creates additional troubles. Not a lot of people familiar how to do it. So yeah, that's expected. They pretty much go into the route of China, completely creating a wall, blocking information, so people can't know anything else except what the government wants you to know. So we got Nick here. Hello. So yeah, it's that's the challenge of modern day dictatorships that they cannot lock. They need the information bubble. You know, it was easy back in the day when the only way people could get information out of the country would be radio. And then, of course, like in case of Soviet Union, and I don't know if you watched my video about enemy voices, they were jamming radio programming just in case if somebody missed it. Enemy. I'll post the link right now. Struggle against the enemy voices. That was actually it's kind of a good recollection about spending time with my father, my late father, who passed away last year. On Sunday morning, well, Saturday I had to go to school, but on Sunday mornings I'll go to his room, and he'll be still in his bed. We had a geologist, big radio. I need to find a picture of it, make a video about it. And he'll be trying to catch, Deutsche Welle, so German wave, or BBC on Russian language, or Voice of America, or Free Europe. And we try to listen news, and there will be news about Soviet Union as well. And I recall there was one time they said there was like a cruise ship, Soviet cruise ship, stopped somewhere in one of the German ports or Netherlands, Antwerp, and like 15 people asked for political asylum. And I was like, they never told us in the Russian, in the Soviet newspapers. So I remember that shock. So yeah, it's the problem of modern dictatorships. It's hard to lock the information. China did it somewhat successfully. Now, of course, Russia moving in that direction North Korea. So that's logical what they do. Okay, let's see. There's a comment from Griffin, who also lives in Michigan. Hello, Sergey. I love your videos. I listen to them all day while at work. I appreciate it. I discovered, I don't know how many of you watched my recent video about my trip with Greyhound when I check my videos, I play it and speed it up, so 1.75 speed. When I listen to that in normal speed, I'm a slow reader, and I'm not sure what to do about it, because if I'm gonna make audiobook, or you need to listen it, speed it up, or I need to come up with some, I don't know if there's audio programs out there to make your sound fast, to make your speech faster, but not losing the quality. Because like, man, I'm slow. I'm trying to read correctly, and it sounded slow to me. So I'm glad you listen it at work, and then yeah, it's if you can watch pictures later, but a lot of my videos could be like podcast. You can just listen and get information. So let's see what else we got. How is your third book is going? Well, 1997. Speaking of books, just a quick plug in. So we got 1995. I have to admit, the picture is actually from 1998. I never thought I'm gonna write more than one book. So this is my 1995. 1996 got a little bit bigger. So this is two times I rode the Greyhound bus going back from Michigan to New York City, where I flew to Moscow. It was 95, 96. In 97, I flew to visit my cousin in California, in LA. And the book is, I'm basically at the last end of the book, writing it now, and then I need to come back and kind of reread it. And there are some things I need to add. But there was a lot of interesting adventures in California. If you watch my video about gay people, I'll put the link too, just in case. I have a video called "Was That Okay to Be Gay in the USSR?" It's an old video, but there was basically, I know I don't look like a supermodel, but I had two times when the gay people like approached me and wanted to know me better. And one time was in Kiev. There was this book in the bookstore. This older man, and he's probably 50s, maybe 60s. Soviet gay people. Something like. And the second time was in California, in LA, and this is a 1997 story. I was on the bus going back from the beach. I was, it's November, and I was really enjoying the beach after working in Michigan in October, which was really cold already, and it was first snow. And the guy approached me right in the bus. He kind of looked like Latino, and he told me he's a photographer, and he had a book right to show me. He's like, "Yeah, I'm specializing in male models, and I think you could be a successful male model. And why don't you come over to my place? We'll do a photo session, this and that." So that was quite shocking experience. But I talked to my cousin who lived at that time in LA, and he said, "Well, you can get different experience, that for sure, but most likely that person is gay." So I don't know. I never found out. I never called the guy. So, but yeah, he gave me his business card. I wish I kept it somewhere. Okay. Let's see what else we got. Your question. So yeah, book is almost ready, like manuscript, but then I need to. So I hope, and by Christmas it will be ready. I still need to come up with idea for the book cover. So that's another issue, but that's what we're working on. And yeah, I need to work. There's another thing I need to work on audiobook on T95. Just I need to make a schedule and just kind of work every day, record a couple of pages and see how it goes. Because I got everything I need. I just need to dedicate some time. Okay. There's a question. Hey Sergey, you remember old website Savok of the Week? Savok meaning ex denizen of the USSR. No, I don't recall its website. Savok, its direct meaning of the word is actually like a dustpan, and it's in Russian sound very similar, like Sovietsky, Soviet, and Savok. So that kind of became a terminology for all the bad things of the Soviet Union, as well as people who used to live in the Soviet Union and have a kind of Soviet mentality. They are Savki, and if you want, you are Savok. So I actually have something for show and tell today. Well, first of all, I got a new book I bought. I found it by accident reading websites. It's expensive on Amazon, but it was pretty cheap on eBay. I always compare prices. The Soviet Worker Illusions and Realities. There was a reference to the famous CIA report about how great nutrition was in the Soviet Union, almost as good as in America. And there was a reference to this book, the person who analyzed. So I got interested. So yeah, I bought it for like $5 plus shipping, so it wasn't too bad. So Soviet Worker Illusions and Realities. It's like 1981 book. So that's my new addition to my big library. Besides my books, there's a stuff that I keep on buying, discovering more books. Sergey, are there any good charities that ordinary people can give support to Ukraine? I don't want to accidentally give money to scam organizations. Yes, there is a plenty. There's quite a few YouTube channels that they collect money and they go to directly to like relief workers or military. I'm gonna give you one of the links. I watch that channel a lot. I usually donate money to what they ask. There's a specific, request for drones or whatever. On TV. Not that. You see, if you search in English, it's not even showing up. I'm putting a request for that website and gives me a bunch of dating videos. Let's see, okay, here we go. They should have it in English. There's one in Ukrainian. There's one in Russian. I'm not sure if they have it in English, but I'll post the link to the channel, and I think you maybe be able to do. They have almost 2 million subscribers. So if you look at the description of videos, there'll be a link. I think also United 24. There's a website and take donations. The Ukrainian channel that they constantly run donation, collect donations to help Ukrainians. And United 24. There is a company, not a company, but there's a Ukrainian. All right, so there's another one. They're located somewhere in the United States, and also donate to them. They get together containers and they send it to Ukraine. They mostly do. If you don't want to have military, which I can understand, you know, they just do like humanitarian relief. So they send medication, food, clothing, all those items that civilian people need. So, all right. So we got some my old supporters and viewers. Paula, good evening, Thomas Sergey. We got Ghana Union. How's your week going? I'm up a little bit from work, and I spent the morning power washing my driveway. I have one spot where there's a lot of dark, almost smoke. That was my project. And then I decided I can't do just specific scheduling. So, and we're here. It's a little hot and humid right now in Michigan, so it's time to be indoors. What else? Question. Hello, Sergey. Did you watch Cartoon No Pagadi? Of course. I was a popular cartoon. I'm planning to make videos kind of more into details. I have a playlist about Soviet entertainment, which we're going to show you right now. Let's see, content, playlists, Soviet entertainment. I'll give you the link. So that's everywhere. Music, movies, cartoons. But I'm planning to do more into details because I did just like a general overview. But yeah, I would say No Pagadi was the most popular Soviet. I have only 7 videos. That's pathetic. most popular cartoon, hands down. And they made only like 13 or 14 parts during the Soviet days, so there were not many choices. I mean, when I first time I saw Tom and Jerry, I completely lost interest on Nupagadi because there was no comparison. Of course, now with nostalgia, I prefer to watch again. If I decided to watch, that would be Nupagadi. And of course, there's so many funny details. The world is changing, society changing. So to watch the children cartoon with the wolf, that's the bad character, smoking all the time. It's just kind of like wild. There was a part that he got a rabbit that he's chasing the hare or rabbit all the time. And he got the rabbit trapped inside of the phone booth. And, rabbit locked himself in. So he started drinking, smoking cigarettes, and filling the whole booth with smoke, which is, it's like, wow, we show that to the kids. And speaking of show and tell, I have another item I'd like to show you. We're kind of approaching, I make more and more videos about perestroika, and I'm planning to make maybe one of my next videos will be part 2 about Ukrainian nationalism. So part 1, it's already out there. It's about what I remember, like 80s, when I was waking up. And second part will be basically like 1991. That's when it's actually like bloomed, exploded, you can say. In 1990, I believe that's when Ukraine accepted Ukrainian flag like we know it. Blue for this blue sky, yellow for wheat, and the trident as a symbol. And it's one of the reasons why Putin hates modern Ukraine so much. He's a former KGB, and it was always Ukrainian bourgeois nationalist, Nazi lackeys, all that propaganda was always there. So to see the neighboring country, which always supposed to be part of Russia, besides becoming independent, taken as their national symbols, those the most hated symbols of imperial Russia. That's what Russia fought for years, to dissolve Ukrainian nation, kill Ukrainian language. So I understand why I hate so much. So right after the collapse of the union and all that stuff, one of the ways I was making extra money or trying to survive was speculation. I was selling these Playboy cologne sprays. I don't know if you see. I was surprised to find out they still make stuff like that. This is the modern day. I found it in local Rite Aid, believe it or not. It's in Miami. But this one is the original from the Ukraine. I used to. It says made in England, but I'm not sure if it's the, real or not real. But yeah, I knew a friend of mine. His relative had access like to wholesale. Somebody was bringing in by semi trucks, so she was making little money. Bringing a case and selling you slightly above large wholesale price, and then you have margin. So I'll take the cases to different places on consignment, making like 50 cents of each spray. So that was making me additional, I don't know, $5-10 a month. So it's one of the way I was surviving, was reselling Playboy. So yeah, that's good memories of those times. That's when people try to figure out how to make extra money. Okay, Griffin comment again says, I really love that you include pictures. Yeah, it could be a challenge sometimes because, you don't want same picture stay for too long, but sometimes it's hard to find any pictures. So it's quite a challenge. But fortunately, more and more people scanning their old photos. So the internet constantly getting more and more pictures related to specific topics. So yeah, sometimes I'm finding photos of myself very impressed. So question, could you buy a gun in the Soviet times? You can only purchase shotgun. For hunting shotgun, that's the only type of gun was available to buy for a private person. You can own a handgun if you served in military and you got it as a present. So you should be pretty high up in the chain of command. I need to make a video on this topic. Otherwise, no, there was no private ownership of guns. But of course, because of the World War II, rolled through Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, a lot of criminals they used the German guns. Periodically, it was being those machine guns. We call them Schmeisser for some reason, but otherwise, no guns were allowed. And you can have different attitude about it, but we had not a single school shooting or college shooting in the Soviet Union ever. So I don't mind responsible gun ownership, just like Second Amendment says that if you are a member of well-regulated militia, sure, no problem. But everyone having a gun, you know, it's pretty scary what's going on in America with school shooting and church shooting and supermarket shooting. There should be some kind of control. You need to get some kind of paper from a doctor that you're not mental case. You shouldn't have a criminal record and stuff like that. So that's kind of what I look at gun ownership. I own a rifle, Mosin Nagant, and I own a Nagant Soviet revolver. I never shot out of that revolver, just like a collection item, and I only once I was shooting out of my rifle. So it's like a collecting item. And my dream is to buy a German broomstick, that big Mauser, but it's so expensive. So I don't see spending a couple $1,000 on something just gonna be on the shelf or something like that. Okay, so yeah, I will make a video about Soviet cartoons. Ну погоди. There's also a comment. So I just posted that video about gay life #1 in Soviet Army. I honestly can tell you, I don't recall stories. I didn't serve, but a lot of my friends, like I was mentioning before, was born in 1971. So my generation was pretty much one of the last generations that we turned 18 in 1989. So my generation if they went and got drafted for 2 years, they went during the Soviet days and they came back while Soviet Union was still around. Next year, 1972, it's pretty much they found themselves, the Soviet Union was gone by the time they were done with military service, and that was a mess. You serve in Ukraine, but you came from Russia, and suddenly they tell you, okay, there's no more Soviet Union, so you need to become now a Ukrainian soldier, and a lot of Russians refused, and there was just this exchange. The Ukrainians came back to Ukraine to finish their military service, and Russians went back to Russia. That was quite a mess, I think, at that time. But my generation was the last generation that had full services. Kind of drifted away from the gay topic. But I recall stories that gay people, it was illegal to be having gay, homosexual relations. Only like there was article that you can get up to 7 years in prison for that, but it's only for guys. Like girls, it was not mentioned. So but there were stories that gay people that were desperate, let's put it that way, they were actually offering soldiers who they go into town on military leave. So these guys know that they are horny young guys that were stuck in barracks for a month or two. So they will offer them oral sex and even offer them money if they let them do oral sex on those horny soldiers. So that's the only stories I remember hearing, which just sounded really bizarre to me. And then, of course, quite often Soviet soldiers will agree. They go somewhere in a dark spot in the park and they beat the guy, take his money, and leave. So that's the only gay stories about Soviet army I recall. Let's see, moving along. So there's a comment from Stefan. He says, regarding audiobooks, there are programs. It's pretty straightforward to edit the audio and remove mistakes. Well, I record in little snippets, so I kind of watch my mistakes. So it's easy to replace. The problem is how to make me sound faster, because I'm like, I'm trying to read correctly and it's my own words, but it just doesn't work. I don't go fast. I'm not a fast talker, even in my native language, and especially in English. Question from Jose. Hello, Sergey. Do you know the chocolate brand Alyonka? Back in the day of the USSR, was it expensive? How does it taste? And what other chocolate brands do you guys have in back in them? Yeah, of course, Alyonka was one of the most, I won't say popular, was just everywhere. You need to understand about Soviet brands. No one owned them. So, like, different factories will be making Stolichная vodka. No one will own the brand. Same with the like brands of cigarettes. No one owned them. It's just somebody. I don't know how they design or make new cigarettes, and then they like basically every factory makes it, and people say, okay, you know, this factory makes better cigarettes than that factory, or the brand is the same. So Alyonka was that case. I think it was milk chocolate. It was just chocolate. I can't think of anything super good or bad about it. Obviously, it was nothing to compare with. We didn't have a foreign chocolates. When I first got hang of the chocolate from Finland, I like that way better. So I mean, it was okay. I can't say either way it was good or bad. I wasn't a big candy guy generally. It's like I would eat candy, but I really didn't dig it. Uh, I fell in love with Snickers when the Snickers showed up. That was my favorite. Was the salty nut was good, and also I like the Cadbury fruits and nuts. Now I buy at Aldi, German Aldi. There's also those supermarkets here in America, and they sell German chocolate, and they have one with fruits and nuts. That's the one I buy all the time. That's my favorite chocolate. So I couldn't say Alyonka was something great. At least it didn't leave any like memories, and I can't think of any other brands. There was something Mishka Kasalape that was like a chocolate candy. We had mostly chocolate candy, not like chocolate bars. Those I don't recall many, but I need to look it up. Some people probably remember. I said I wasn't big on candy for some reason. Yeah, so I posted. There's a comment from Nick. So Google offers you more and more tools using AI, artificial intelligence. So when I was trying to do short to advertise this live, they offered me, do you want to use AI? Like, well, sure. So I told I would like have a picture of red banner with the numbers 103,000 and the words Ushanka show. And what they gave me was just totally hilarious. But I think there's something prevents AI to do exactly like wording. I notice it like they always will just put the random words, like at least if you ask it in Russian. I'm not sure about English. So there's a comment. U.S. nostalgia is really strong in Vietnam. And do you know anything about Vietnam? If you do, I'm looking forward to watching your content, regardless of the topic. We didn't know much about Vietnam besides, we were secretly helping Vietnam during the Vietnam War. And of course, then later we had a lot of jokes that, the Soviet pilots, Soviet advisors were actually fighting, but they were pretending to be Vietnamese. So there was the whole bunch of stories that, they only like when they had a hand, they fight next, like face to face fighting with Americans. They said there's a lot of Vietnamese for some reason only use their legs, kicking Americans, and they're like, why they don't punch Americans? Well, because they have to hold their hands to make their eyes look slanted, pretend Vietnamese and other jokes like that. So, but otherwise, what's interesting, you asked about Vietnam. Um, the biggest impact on Russian language from Vietnam is the word Vietnam Ki, Vietnamese shoes, because when the Vietnamese students started coming to the Soviet Union to study, they were wearing flip flops or thongs. That word change in English too used to be thongs. And then it became named for the most for underwear, like a G-string style underwear, right? So those shoes that became called Vietnam Key in the Soviet Union because for the first time we discovered them on the Vietnamese students, and then of course they became popular in Soviet Union. So they still called flip flops Vietnam Key. That's the name for those. So that's the biggest Vietnam impact. And then also we were getting these little round jars with a star on it. It was like a stuff like when you have cold, you can put under your nose. I can't think of the word right now. Balsam, they call it in Russian. So that was coming from Vietnam. There was a uh, uh, hot item. But I'm surprised to see that Vietnam has nostalgia because right now Vietnamese economy developing like crazy because a lot of production now moving from China into Vietnam. When I used to work at the furniture store, I caught that change when instead of furniture from China, we started getting furniture from Vietnam, and initially was a lot of problems because they didn't have a good moisture control because Vietnam is really humid. So they had the issue with paint and stuff like that. Sergey, back in 1981, did you vote yes or no for Ukrainian independence? I don't recall, but I'm positive I voted yes. There is no way I would vote no. Back then, there was such a euphoria. That would be my second video. Just all the positive changes were happening. Of course, I can make a lot of people mad, but the last years of the Soviet Union, the final years of Soviet Union and perestroika time and freedom of speech, there was so much excitement. It was just so much fun after that boring, gray, dull life. And I'm teenager, right? I turned 20 in 1991, so I'm in my 17, 18, all those years when you're so excited about something new, fresh. Suddenly we have this flood of, you know, interesting TV programs, interesting stuff to read, books that used to be banned, now they're available. Videos started coming from the West. So there was this just tsunami of change, and nationalism was with it. So it wasn't, like something. Ukrainian nationalism at that time was not like against Russians or against Jews or Polish people. It was we don't want. It was against like what Stalin did to Ukraine, and that Ukraine deserves to be independent and will do better without Kremlin control. So everything was in this positive light. We all knew how this all turned out. And I'll be talking about my next video. But yeah, I was quite. I wasn't like extreme nationalist. I didn't wear any, like uh, Ukrainian colors or like stuff like that. And I didn't switch to Ukrainian language, but I definitely supported Ukrainian independence and Ukraine being an independent country. So I'm positive that I voted yes back then. But I don't recall, of course. If I knew it, I'll be making that. I look at my diaries what I kept back then, and I was guy who like had a crush on a girl. It's mostly I was like, man, you should write stuff which was more important. There was historical change, and here I'm like, oh, I saw her in the bus stop, and she looks so pretty. I was like, dude, it's not what you should be writing down. There was like historical, tectonic switch in the country, and you're writing about this Natasha girl that you saw on the bus stop. Like, oh my god. Anyway, so, and by the way, if you like my work, if you want to support my work, there's a super chat. You can hit that button, donate some money. I will be greatly appreciated. So, question: what if doctors gave fraudulent papers to say someone who is not mentally comprised? Well, there's always a problem like that. That doctor should be punished. So, but yeah, there's always, we can go circles round and round about this whole problem with doctors and but doctors were used heavily when people tried to dodge military service in Soviet Union. In America, I mean, former President Trump apparently had some issue with his foot. He doesn't remember which foot, and doesn't looks like he's playing golf. No problem. I don't see him limping, but it was bad enough for him to skip Vietnam. So I don't know. It's So yeah, also another project I'm thinking about doing is to make videos about car racing and stuff like that in Soviet Union. It wasn't mega popular, and I was thinking because uh, there's no most people didn't own cars, right? It was like one car in 30 families, and I think you need to be like related to car culture and all that stuff in order to feel it. Like NASCAR, whatever. It's just when it's not there, it's just like okay. And I'll tell you a story. I'm planning to make it also in part of my video, but We had a little bit they showed, but it was mostly in the news. They didn't really. I don't remember. Maybe they showed like bike race, and they had this weird motorcycle racing on ice. So there's ice rink, and they race their spiked tire motorcycles on the circles. It's fun to watch when there's something happens, like somebody crashes. But otherwise, I never liked this whole same as NASCAR, going in circles. So once again, it's perestroika time, and the very first time ever, they're gonna show on the first channel, the main channel of Soviet Union TV channel, they're gonna show Formula, race, it was Monaco or somewhere in Europe. So me and my dad were like so excited because it should be cool because they'll show sometimes a little bit crashes and news. So we sat down, the race started, we were watching, you know, and I look at my dad, and I was sitting there for 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And I look at my dad, is that supposed to be like for 3 hours? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh, that's boring. And I left. So even that just didn't get my attention. All right, see what else we got for your questions. So another question about cartoon. There was cartoon Kazaki. Was it popular? Well, a lot of those Kazaki was Ukrainian cartoons. So they were more like not at children level. So I mean, anything was popular in Soviet Union because there was such a shortage of entertainment. In some ways, I'm thankful because I feel bad for modern day kids. There's so much they just constantly distracted. Especially now it's all on your phone everywhere. Uh, I was a latchkey kid. Thank you guys. You taught me that word. I don't know about it. My parents were at work. Like pretty much every kid in Soviet Union was a latchkey kid because parents had to work, both parents. So we all go to school in the morning. You come back around 2 p.m. Your parents at work. You unlock your apartment, and you're on your own. There's a TV. Guess what? How many times? Can you guess how many times did I turn TV on coming from school? Zero. There was nothing to watch. There was three channels in Kiev, and there was nothing. It could be some ballet or some uh, an opera, or just around that time midday. So kids, literally, you're home by yourself. No one supervises you. Like, don't watch TV. We went outside to play with each other because there was nothing to watch on TV, which now I'm thankful. But of course, as a kid, it sucked. Mine to sit and watch, Nu Pagadi for a couple of hours or some good children movie. Nope, there was nothing, absolutely nothing to watch. So yeah, I spend a lot of time outdoors, even when my parents were at work. You just have lunch. And in my case, I'm, one of those I have something. Like I talked to my wife yesterday. There's probably some kind of medical condition that I have. I couldn't go and play if my homework is not done. I just couldn't enjoy myself, playing with friends. It just it would be like this bothering me, like it's homework, still homework. Домашка. There's a word we use, домашка. Homework, so like a homer. Oh, there's still homework to do. Homework to do. God damn it. So I knew that I need to do homework. Then I can go outside and I'm just playing, balls to the walls. I can just enjoy myself. I don't need to worry. Homework done. So coming home, having lunch, doing my homework, going outside. So this was fantastic. Otherwise, if there'll be any cartoon you'll watch because there was nothing else to watch. My personal favorite I liked now looking back, the cartoon about Winnie Pooh. That one was way better actually than Nupagadi. Nupagadi is just the standard chasing each other. Winnie Pooh they made so much better than American version, in my opinion. And my goodness, it created a separate culture of all the jokes about Winnie the Pooh because he's kind of like an asshole. Like he treated Piglet really badly, and we had horrible jokes all the way about their relations and how he screws Piglet one way or other. That's pretty hilarious. But yeah, so that was a good cartoon. Kazaki was good. But my favorite is that Ukrainian Жил был пес. There was once a dog. I'll find you for you. I'll put the link. That one is like really cute. I think they have them with subtitles. Let's see. But that's fantastic one. It's just so good. There was a dog. Maybe it will come up in English. Let's see. Nope, nope, nope. Let's see. I'll put Soviet cartoon. Once Upon, it's 1982, with professional English voiceover. Comic tunes. That's hilarious. It's actually, there's a professional English voiceover. Oh, poor. There's a Russian girl, Irina. She made a voiceover and only 5,000 views. Well, maybe we'll help you, girl. Let's see. We'll do copy. Okay, so that cartoon, I'll just put dog cartoon. It's amazing. It's like shows Ukrainian village back in the day, and yeah, there's once again that cartoon produced. I just posted the link. Produced so much. There's Americans are big on that, saying different phrases from the movies and specific occasions. Well, that cartoon did it to the Russian language. Those classical phrase "Шо опять?" What again? When the dog came back to the wolf another for help. So that became big deal. And speaking like that's how I was learning about American culture. I'll catch some phrase. I'll see somebody says something and other people laugh. So I'll copy that phrase without knowing the background. You know, like I noticed "Go ahead, make my day." I didn't know what's movie from. I didn't know it's even from the movie, but I knew if I have a stone face and I say with my Russian accent, "Go ahead, make my day," people were just rolling. I had no idea why. What we got here is the failure to communicate. Another phrase I didn't know what's from. I used it a lot. Actually, I thought that it's from the Guns N' Roses, just the song. They came up with this little snippet in the beginning of the song. So it's a lot of interesting details you can say without understanding the actual background, but they make Americans laugh. So yeah, that's another. The question: have you had chocolate covered cottage cheese from Latvia? I had it. I don't think I had Latvian. They also make it in Ukraine. I don't think it's a cottage cheese, but yeah, it's like a cheese product covered with chocolate, and then there's a fruit filling inside. That's the best. Yeah, it's one of my favorite. I like it a lot. We didn't have that in the Soviet Union. Whoever genius came up with that later. But when I used to come to Ukraine visit my parents, they knew that they'll buy in advance. They'll have like 10 different varieties in the fridge waiting for me because, yeah, those are great snacks. Have some tea and snacking on those cheesy chocolate tinnies. Yeah, that was fantastic. They call it sirok. So, yeah, ointment, famous Vietnamese ointment with red star. Yep, that's the one. My family didn't use it much, but yeah, we always had it. I know, like when you had sore lips, that's what you put it on your lips. Gold Star Bomb. So yeah, there's people remembering. Okay, so question about India. India had very good relations with the USSR. I made a video about it. Oh yeah, absolutely. We actually Indian movies were a big deal. Uh, that was a big deal. But I have a video about it. I'll post the link. And then, of course, some Indian products. I remember Indian toothpaste, but Indian coffee, Indian instant coffee. It was very expensive. It was deficit, hard to find. But yeah, we had. I'm posted the link. I already had a video on this topic. But yeah, India video. There was yep. Watched a lot of Indian movies. Samrat, I remember. There was a Indian actress. She didn't look Indian. She kind of had a, interesting look. But yeah, that was, I had a little crush on her. Didn't know her name. I discovered later, of course. I started searching, when the internet became available. But yeah, I thought she was extremely attractive. Like generally, like Indian ladies, not my type, but that girl was something else. Okay, I think we. So someone is correcting me. The USSR is not equal to Russia. Capital is the same. Capital of Russia and capital of USSR was the same. There was the same empire, just under different name. The Russian language was the language that everyone's supposed to speak in the empire. It was just different banners, but the strategy was the same. And a lot of times I see people tell me that, when Stalin attacked Poland, Stalin attacked Finland, it's always because he wanted to return back to Soviet Union Russian territories. So I see no difference personally. Just, you know, you have a Tsar, then you have a dictator, general secretary. Yeah, nationalities were changing. You had Georgian guy, then I don't know. Some people say Khrushchev and Brezhnev were Ukrainians, but the policy and attitude was exactly the same. There's one of the reasons why Russia doesn't have Independence Day. They had the date when Russia announced under Yeltsin of its sovereignty, but it's like, dude, you know, uh, so they call it the Flag Day. They don't call it. I don't think they call it Independence Day. It makes no sense. Like, whom did you become independent of? Capital Moscow, Kremlin, everything. Like everything about Soviet Empire is Russia. So when Russia said, "Oh, we're independent from the Soviet Union," like you are like the core of that thing. So, all right, let's see what else we got. The question: if they caught you with VCR and American tapes, would you be branded counter-revolutionary or less cosmopolitan? No, the only time you could get really like in trouble is for porn. There was a lot of cases when people were doing bad stuff but end up being arrested for porn. There was one the case when this lady, I'm planning to make video about it too. She's pretty much the only like a female like criminal that she did crime like in the economic sphere. So she was like a manager of a restaurant, and then she kind of took over the whole. I think it was Yalta, so it's like a resort area on the Black Sea. So she was running the whole. Then from cafe to restaurant, then she was running the whole management company for that city, and she was deciding who getting what, getting bribes. People were doing shure mure. She was getting kickbacks, and what got her in trouble that she set up like a video salon movie theater when they were showing porn for their customers, and that's what got her in trouble. And then KGB started unraveling, and she ended up being executed, shot for her criminal crimes because just there was millions of rubles. But what got her in trouble, like El Capone got in trouble for tax evasion, and she got in trouble for porn, which is kind of sounds bizarre that the woman will be, usually it's kind of dudes things, right? But and then in the end of the 90s, end of 80s, that was fine. They actually allowed people to have video salon in like a tiny movie theaters with VCR TV screen, and people would watch it. And actually, I have a video on this topic: how Hollywood destroyed Soviet Union. Coming up. Okay. Video in the USSR. So yeah, you're welcome to check it out. And Svetlana, thank you so much for your donation. I appreciate it. There you go. So she donated some money from UK. And once again, we need to pause for a second and just to reflect. you guys didn't mention what countries you're from. I know for sure we got UK, possibly Vietnam. But the fact that I'm here in Michigan talking to people from all over the world, I got money donation coming from UK. This whole thing is just so amazing, and we're live. You see me, you can chat. It's wild. So her question: did polytechnic centers had stinky reputation in the Soviet Union like they have in the West? I'm not sure if you're talking about polytechnic. Like my college was called Polytechnic, Политехнический Institute. General engineers was just there was such a low esteem profession. There was a lot of jokes how poor engineers are, because when you engineer, you don't have really anything to steal from work except pencils and rulers. So I can, if you can specify what I mean, polytechnic centers. But generally, being an engineer was a joke in the Soviet Union. And I said we had so many, just the whole part. That's another thing I'm planning to do is have a review different topics of the Soviet anecdotes, Soviet jokes, because there was a political anecdotes, then national anecdotes, just kind of general review with examples. And there was one subcategory is jokes about poor Soviet engineers. So that was like, well, no one even they had it. People were cracking jokes about it on TV. So that was so okay. So yeah, back to the VCR topic. VCRs were like 5,000 rubles. I think it was the cheapest VCR you could get in the mid of 80s. So the price of the car, pretty much used car, when the average person was making, I would say about 2,000 rubles a year. VCR was 5,000. Boombox was 1,000 if it came from the West, smuggled some way. So it was super expensive just to have VCR. And I know cases, and I know, like I read about it, when people, somebody's grandma passed away and left a one-room apartment, and a guy would trade an apartment for VCR. And then, of course, every girl wants to hang out with him because, hey, you want to check it out. Греческая смоковница. There was this kind of like erotic movie, or there was a bunch of movies. I forgot the name. There was a female name. There was a whole series like this erotic. The same chick, she travels around, sleeps around, got us all, half undressed. So there was like a soft porn type of thing came in the Soviet Union. Okay. How you get fund in Ukraine in order to migrate to USA? Loan. It was difficult to get a loan in 1995. Well, definitely you didn't read my books, but I explain everything in 1995. I didn't migrate. I came to America first time in 1995 to work on exchange program. It was paid by CCUSA, Camp Counselors USA, which is a part of some part of the Department of Education or something. So they provide funds to bring people from all over the world, young people, students, like for the exchange, and get poisoned with American ideas, I guess. So I had to pay $350 to be a part of this program. They provided free flight tickets. And I work in a summer camp in Michigan. I thought I'm going to be working as a counselor, but they hired me as a photography specialist. So that's how I end up in America. But $350 was huge money. That's pretty much everything I had. I invested in this trip, and I just wanted to see America. And they told me that they'll give you $350 back as a pocket cash. But I got lucky. It's Camp Rosenthal that I worked. They paid $110 a week instead of $350 a year, a season, summer. So it was no migration. I couldn't migrate. I'm not sure if you're aware. The only people who could freely migrate from the former Soviet Union to United States were Jews. Back in the early 70s, I think there was two Democrats, of course, who would any conservative would come up with crazy idea to allow former communists or former Komsomol members, young communists, to migrate to America in large quantities. But they made this Jackson Krennic or something amendment, and they basically demanded from Soviet Union to let people who are being prosecuted religiously or nationally, which was just Jews, and people who had different religion, they could migrate to United States or Israel. Soviet Union gradually agreed, and that's how over 600,000 Jewish people came to this from the former Soviet Union and Soviet Union to America. So pretty much, if you meet anyone in United States who says they are Russian, 90% chance they're not Russian, like by nationality, they're Russian speaking Jewish. My All my teachers came to America. A couple of people I know from my school that were Jewish migrated to America. So like I just couldn't say, hey, I would like to migrate to America. It's really impossible. But on my fourth trip, I end up meeting and marrying an American lady. She's right behind me, right there, Cheryl. We had a blind date in 1998, and that's how I got stuck in the United States. So no, yeah, there was no loans, and yeah, it was interesting experience coming to the United States, which I explain in my books as I was learning about America. Questions about chess? How huge were they? Were big, yeah. Definitely, I played chess. All my friends played chess, and I have video about chess. And once again, it's not like we were smarter. It was just, I would say, for the lack of entertainment. When you don't have any entertainment, you find some kind of entertainment. So not just chess, but chess and checkers were huge. My late father, that's what they did on the smoke breaks and lunch breaks, extended lunch breaks, is playing chess, checkers. I'm sorry, not chess. Man, in checkers, he didn't know how to play chess, but checkers, I could never beat him. But I learned how to play chess with my friends, and we did a lot. Like even in school, between during the break between classes, we'll have this little pocket chess book, and we'll play chess. I mean, it's great. It's great. The lack of entertainment, mass media entertainment, it's definitely helped me greatly. It's once your brain is developing, and instead of staring on TV and consuming mindless entertainment, you read books, you play chess, play checkers, or go outside. And yeah, so I'm thrilled because I didn't enjoy it as a kid, but it greatly helped me to be who am I who I am. It's just a lack of entertainment. You're hungry and you find a way to entertain yourself. you know I feel bad for our kids. Wi-Fi disappears, and those kids are like confused now. I could sit and draw for hours, read books. It's just I could find a way to entertain myself and not being bored. So I got chess. Another question from Rodri Otero, who's one of the members of my channel. So that's another way you can support my work, because quite a few of my videos YouTube doesn't like to monetize because they don't like the topics, is to become a member of my channel. There's some perks. You can watch my videos before they go public. So he has a question: do you remember the first time you try avocado? Uh, in Maybe in 2000s, when I married an American. There was no avocados in the Soviet Union. I don't remember seeing it. The only like exotic fruits we could get was bananas once a year. They were extremely expensive. I need to make another video on this topic. But yeah, like another thing, my best present my parents ever did to me, they bought me bananas for my birthday when I was like 9. And it was like, oh, I will remember forever. I have a video on this topic too. I'll post, but it was a 1 ruble 10 kopecks per kilo. And what's interesting, I have a video that says why Soviet bananas were so hard to find and so crazy expensive. So I did some math. So paying 1 ruble 10 kopecks for a kilogram of bananas in the Soviet Union for the Soviet engineer will be the same as American engineer paying $50 per pound. You paying what, 70, 80 cents a pound. For if you will be engineer for engineer, bananas for bananas, it's $50 a pound. That's how expensive those bananas were. So the video on Soviet bananas coming up. And then we'll do a little show and tell again. Today I prepared for you guys. I don't know if you like my show and tells. Let me know because I can do a couple. There's another thing. There's something I have medical term for it. I also like. Some people say that like junk collectors, but I kept a lot of my things, and my mom, bless her heart, like I would never care about maintaining my school items. Like I hated school like a normal kid, but she kept all my day planners, all 10 of them from every year. Some my notebooks, not all of them. So she kept like drawings she liked, she kept those. So bless her heart. But then I kept a lot of my own drawings and stuff. So I have a lot of show and tells to do. But we got another generous donation. So we need to say thank you to Comrade Animal 16365. Thank you so much for your donation. When you first started working at the summer camps here in America, what and how did the kids treat you when they heard your accent? We're curious about you where you come from. Once again, the answers in this book. So obviously, I learned to speak English. I didn't learn to speak English. I learned English by books. And learning English by book, it's like you learn how to drive manual transmission by books. You can learn all in the world, but once you sit down in the car, you start shifting gears, you find out that you don't know anything or you know basics. So that was very similar in that regard, besides my accent, of course. Uh, there's nothing you can do about it. I still have accent. When I get nervous, my accent gets worse. When I'm drunk, my accent mellows. Let's put it that way. So yeah, they had hard time understanding me. I had hard time understanding them because I work in a summer camp for inner city kids from Chicago. So that's Ebonics. So it was hard to understand what they're saying. But they liked my accent because I sounded like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I took advantage of it. I was telling kids that I'm his younger brother. And if they didn't believe me, I was like, "Well, do you hear my accent?" And they're like, "Ooh." So accent actually turned out to be a great thing. People remember me. They liked me because of that. But I took me about 3 months to get going talking. I struggled for a while just to, you know, you assemble the sentence in your head, and then you have to say it. Yeah, that was quite slow for a long time. Oh, they got this new super chat. Let me see. Be first to reply to this. So YouTube comes up as new stuff all the time. Thank you for your donation. So yeah, accent. I discovered that accent is actually, you know, if it's not too taxing for people to understand what you're saying, accent is a great thing. It's makes you, I guess, somewhat unique. Gives you can think of the word like you are the real thing. You're not like you're faking. When you talk about Soviet Union, your accent adds character. Authentic, I think is the word. So yeah, I don't mind having an accent, and I even don't want to have it disappear. It'd be nice. I sometimes struggle with some words still, but anyway. So okay, show and tell. So there's another classic Soviet era. I'm not sure what year is that. Okay, Osto Standard of 1978. It's like a small postal stamp album. Ta-da! So there's some of them from Ukraine. So it's a post-Soviet Union, but this is my collection of Soviet era icebreakers. And I was actually thinking one day, you know, I started looking at these icebreakers, and I discovered that quite a few of them were not like Soviet built, but they have an interesting history. And then, of course, I got some Ukrainian stamps. So that's when my mom was sending me letters. Once again, I didn't want to throw away her envelopes, so at least I kept the stamps. So that's my hobby when I was a kid in the Soviet Union was collecting stamps. That's what I did a lot. And then you swap with your friends. And I remember, we decided to pick different theme of your collection because, if I collect cars and my friend collects cars, we can swap because what was available, you can buy like a package of mixed stamps in the kiosk, and then you have different stamps. So you want to trade with other guys. So okay, for this flower, I can get a car, or for this Soviet general that no one wants, I can get this stamp with a dog. So we pick different topics to collect, so we don't have to fight for the same stamps. So talk about avocado. Yeah, and I forgot to finish about avocado. So I don't like avocados. I don't eat them. My wife loves them. They do sandwiches and stuff. I remember actually when the first time I tried pineapple was still in Ukraine. I think it was Ukraine already. And for some reason, I had this image that pineapple. First of all, we thought pineapple grows on the trees, like on the palm trees. I had pictures I drew. So bananas grew on the palm trees, and pineapples grew on the palm trees. And when pineapples were available, and I bought one, and I thought it would taste like heaven. It was like pineapple was the ultimate luxury. Like it's the most delicious. It was always like, yeah, he's so rich, he eats pineapples every day. And there's a famous Soviet era, early Soviet Union, Vladimir Mayakovsky. He was a poet. My goodness, today we're slow. We don't have 100 people watching, and have only 62 likes. So, but anyway, thank you for joining me today. Um, so he had a poem, and it was like he's saying, I still remember those. Ешь ананасы, рябчиков жуй, день твой последний приходит буржуй. So eat pineapples. In Russian language has a good word, silly word for pineapple. It's ananas. Ananas. uh, so it is like it tells into bourgeois, hey, eat your pineapple and enjoy your рябчик. Then it's a bird because it's your last days are coming, you bastard. So that was kind of this whole idea that pineapples will be like, you know, like a orgasmic experience when you bite into it. Like I enjoy bananas, so I thought pineapple would be next level, and I bit into it, and it's like, what is it? Is that supposed to be like the best out of in the world? Like, what is so special about it? So yeah, pineapples kind of didn't do to me. And then when I first time I traveled to Germany, they had a pizza with pineapples, and that kind of. And then I took forever for me to start liking pizza because pineapples on pizza just I couldn't. Just I still don't like that part, but that's what I remember about eating exotic fruits. So yeah, that was a huge expectation about pineapples. Oh my god, but that was just like, what is this? Okay, we have another donation from Safe 80. Thank you so much. Hello from Dallas, Texas. By the way, Texas is about the size of Ukraine. So Ukraine territory is pretty much the same as a Texas. When waiting to buy a car, did you have a choice on color or body styles? And was it always cash, no car loans? Yes, I think I have videos on that topic. Well, I wasn't really waiting. You put your name, and you have like 9 years if you waiting for VAZ, VAZ, Zhiguli, Lada. That was like the car that everyone wanted. Like ZAZ Zaporozhets, the Ukrainian made, those small rear engine air cooled cars. Those were not, they were still expensive. I think like 3,500 or 5,000 rubles, but I consider junk and just noisy. So those you don't really, maybe sometimes you may have to wait 6 months. No choice. You can request the model, but I don't think you had a choice in colors, and I don't believe they really had different body styles. They had only LX maybe, so or normal. So there was two options pretty much. At least I know Moskvich. I'm not sure even Zhiguli did anything like that. So you can just say I would like, Kopeyka VAZ was 1 or 2, which was station wagon. 3 had a different engine. But there were stories, my mother put me on the list, waiting list, when I started college. It's 1988. And she kind of like, well, in 9 years, you'll finish college, get a job, save some money. We'll help you maybe get married, and then your turn to buy a car. Beautiful plan, right? Beautiful Soviet plan. How great is that? My mom, bless her heart. So I never had personal experience buying a car. The very first car I bought was United States of America in Battle Creek, Michigan for $1,500. I bought 1988. Yeah, 1988 Chevy Astro minivan. And that was in maybe 1986. It was in my goodness, it was in 2000 maybe, or 1999. So yeah, 1988. Yeah, 1988, and I bought it. It was like 10-year-old car. So color, you didn't know what's coming. Um, so basically model, but I read stories that people, basically what happens, you are on a list and then you get a card in the mail. There's actually, you can find them online. It says, congratulations, your car arrived at the distribution center. We didn't have dealerships, we had distribution center. Please, bring this card to this place, get the paperwork. Then you go to the Soviet savings bank and you pay the money, get the paper that you paid the money, then bring these papers to the distribution center to get your car. And there were stories that people ordered cheaper cars. So the VAZ-01, the original one, they started manufacturing it, I believe, in 1971, and we were making same car for almost 10 years, over 10 years. But over the years, it was kind of getting cheaper than others. So someone saved, for example, 6,000 rubles, which was a lot of money, and they get a notice, hey, you get in VAZ-06, which was 9,000 rubles. So the guy had a problem, like he was short of money. So there was this struggle, or kind of trying to see and trade with someone or something like that. But usually there were people who would pay you on the spot. You buy your car that you waited 9 years, you bought your car even for 9,000 rubles, and they offer you 15,000 rubles on the spot, just like, hey, I'll take your car off your hand. Imagine, yeah, right? So you waited 9 years. So there were people like, you could make money, get in line, and then resell the car. Even used cars, if you buy a car a couple of years later, you want to sell it, you can sell it for 10, 12,000 rubles, just because there were people who had money and they didn't want to wait. So yeah, that was crazy. Car buying experience in Soviet Union. I said, let's see, why Soviet cars were so expensive. I have a video on that, so I'll put that in the description. Soviet cars. So yeah, but my cousin on my mother's side had a car. He bought Moskvich. They didn't wanna. I think his in-laws had money, so they gave him money to buy a car because they wanted, their daughter to have a car in the family. But he decided to buy Moskvich because Moskvich also was. It was almost as expensive as was way worse quality wise. So people didn't have to wait that long. Did car owners repair their own cars or bring them to repair shop? Were repair parts expensive? First of all, repair parts were hard to find. We had the videos many times, like even such a basic things like car wipers were such a short supply that people had to hide their car wipers, because if you even park on the street, run to the store, you come back to your car, wipers will be gone. So there's one wild thing. I had a video about it. I'll post it. So there will be this bizarre scene. Oh, I had that. Okay, I'll find it. So picture this scene. So there's street cars. Of course, usually we didn't have a lot of traffic in the Soviet city because there was not many cars. One of the benefits of living in Kiev, for example, back then, there was hardly ever traffic jams. Like it was nice in that regard. And so, there's a cars driving, and suddenly there's a rain coming down, pouring rain. And guess what? You will see a lot of cars will pull into the side, and the guys will get out of the car and install their wipers. So in their bardachok, in their glove compartment, you have the video called Soviet Mystery. I got it right here. It's actually one of the rare videos that made over 100,000 views. So I have a picture of that, and I asked questions. So yeah, people will pull over and get the wipers out of their glove compartment, install their wipers, and continue driving because if you leave them on the car, they will disappear, and then good luck trying to find them. So we had shortage even with such a basic item as the wipers. So yeah, to get the parts was a big challenge. People were stealing them. So usually you don't want to take your car to the repair shop because they might remove good items and replace them quietly with inferior worn out items that you would never know. So most people prefer to fix their own cars. That's what garage is. There's another video on that too. Let's see if I have that for you. So that was a big culture of American Soviet drivers that they will car ownership and the mystery of the Soviet era garage. So that would be on the weekends. That will be like their hangout place. They will go and work on their car, hang out with other friends there, drink, you know, maybe beer, maybe vodka. Soviet garages. So they spent a lot of times, and of course, because cars were so expensive, basically picture for your average like American income, it's like $300,000. That's what you pay for that Soviet people had to pay for their cars. So of course, 300,000 car. I mean, you are in price points for exotic, super expensive hypercars, right? So you're not hyper, but 300K. So of course, this car is precious. You always store it in the garage. You never drive it in the winter or try to minimize winter driving, and then you will pass it to your kids. So cars were like, big deal. Um, when my brother married, his wife family was like Soviet intelligentsia, and the guy had a car from the 80s, and it was in pristine condition. Oy, oy. So yeah, that's so yeah, even wipers, so mimics any other parts. And then of course, so-called capitalny remont, capital repairs. Every time you hit, I can tell you the schedule, but now it's a throwaway. You get 100,000 in the car, it's not worth it to repair anymore. It goes to the junkyard. Oh no, it gets completely taken apart, completely refurbished. They take engine out and they uh, I don't know what they call, but they drill the engine parts and make it all work again, put additional rings, and then reassemble the engine, and then again take it apart. So this car will have maybe 4 or 5 of those capital repairs to get it going, because just it was way cheaper to do that than buy a new car, because there's another 9-year waiting list and another $300,000 to lay out. So it was bad to own a car, but it was super prestigious. Yeah, it's like if you had a car, oh my goodness. Will you make a video reading Mayakovsky? I could, I guess, because Mayakovsky, I actually like his poems because they're very energetic. They like chopping firewood. It's huh. Я достаю из широких штанин документом бесценного груза. Смотрите, завидуйте, я гражданин Советского Союза. Yeah, that was it's actually when we had it in school in a Russian literature. By my face, it got flashed. It got so energetic. Uh, if you have Mayakovsky, you better read it with some energy because yeah, he had a chop, 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 chop. And of course, reminds me. So there's what I read you is was about I pull out of my pockets as the like a priceless thing is my Soviet passport, and I look and envy. I'm a citizen of the Soviet Union. But there was a silly version of that story of that poem is Я достаю из широких штанин яйца с консервную банку. Смотрите, завидуйте, я гражданин, а не какая-нибудь гражданка. So that's what is different. So I pull out of my pants balls the size of the cans, and you need to look and envy that I'm a citizen, not a female. So I'm гражданин, it's a male word for citizen, and гражданка is female. So yeah, let's see if I. So yeah, I get out of my pants, balls the size of the cans, and be envious. I'm a dude, not some chick. Oh boy, you guys. America corrupted me, I can tell you that. I was used to be innocent, naive guy, and now look at me. Okay, moving along. Let's see. We got some action. Hey, almost 100 people came to view us, so it's great. Thank you for joining. Once again, if you want to tell me which country you're from, I know we only had people from UK, and I tried to do a little bit early, so we have some people from Europe joining. So, so there's a donation from one of my members, and he specifically called "Rebore and Hone" is drilling term for engines. Thank you. Oh, we got Spain here. Uh, uh, Muchas gracias. Buenas noches. Okay, so what else we got else? The questions here. So there are several comments that ananas apparently is the same word in many languages, including Spanish. So yeah, so maybe I'll make Mayakovsky reading. I was always getting A's. I could pull it off. I could do some good reading. And as I said, Mayakovsky is easy. He doesn't use complicated words. It's just basic. Just it could be a good rap song. You know, he was a Eminem of the Soviet era. Question: how was life in the USSR? It was a mixed bag. It definitely the short form. It was everyone was poor, but it was a comfortable to be poor. So that's what Soviet Union achieved: equality by making everyone poor, but by subsidizing housing rent, it was a comfortable to be poor. So if you don't mind being poor, sure. So let's see. Well, about car parts, I think I had a video on this topic. So there was a actually became like a point of interest in Georgia, and I don't remember which city, maybe even Tbilisi. So this Georgian guy purchased a Lada car. You know, he brought it. He didn't have garage yet, so he parked it on the street next to his building. Next day, the wheels were missing. Like the wheels were gone, and he got so upset. Brand new car. Next morning, there's no wheels. That he actually hired a crane and he put his car on his balcony. And let's see, man, I think I swear I made a video about it. I made so many videos that I honestly Georgia. Let's see if it will come up. No, we only Georgian jokes. Let me see balcony. So yeah, it was, and then he said, "I'll wait till better times." When I used to, bring the car down again because he couldn't get a garage fast enough, and better times never came to Georgia. That car was sitting there for a long time, and then he passed away, and the other people bought an apartment, and then they hired a crane to remove the cars. But that was for a long time. There was a tourist attraction. People like, and now we're gonna go and we'll look at the car ownership in Soviet Union. There's a car on the fourth floor on the balcony sitting there. So that's the wildest story I know about car ownership. Let's see. Okay, so very interesting question. Thank you for asking, Jackie. What do you think is happening with Pavel Durov? So the huge news right now, at least in Russia, it's pretty big in Ukraine. So former Soviet Union. I don't know how many of you using a Telegram, this app for the phone, but it's huge. In the former Soviet Union, Russia, and Ukraine, it's kind of like WhatsApp, but it's encrypted. And Pavel Durov, that's the guy who designed this program. He's originally, from Russia, Russian developer, and he became rich and famous by making a carbon copy of Facebook. He designed so-called Vkontakte pro app. Now it's just called VK, V in contact. Pretty much that's how it translates. But I don't know now, but back in the day, it was one for one, just copy of Facebook. He just basically copied everything, and I doubt he paid anything to Facebook. But it became pretty much number one platform, just like Facebook in America, in the world. VK was a Russian version, Russian language, since not many Russians speak English. So he became rich with that. VK. Then, when Putin started tightening up the screws, and they were basically demanding from his company to provide information on people, because there were chat rooms, of course, anti-Putin discussions. They used VK just like Facebook to gather together for protests. So he started getting a lot of pressure, and he realized he's going to end up in jail, like many other people that don't want to do Putin biddings. So they forced him to sell VK really cheap, and he left Russia, and he became a citizen of France. So in Russia, it's allowed to have dual citizenship. So he's still a citizen of Russia and citizen of France. And then he came up with this Telegram, which is a great app. Uh, I used it to talk to my brother, to other people in Ukraine, and generally, it's because it's encrypted. Apparently, the whole Russian military runs on it. Anyways, they do a bunch of stuff, and it's also a lot of bad guys using that app because it's encrypted and they don't let authorities to get it. So there's bad stuff for sale, whatever, bad videos, everything there going on. So in the West, Telegram is used mostly by bad guys. We'll put it that way. People who want, illegal stuff to buy, want to watch stuff that can get you in serious trouble, all that stuff. In Russia, it's like WhatsApp. It's people use for everyday communication. I said I talked to my brother using Telegram. So, but in Europe, it's the socialist. They have a law that you're supposed to provide information upon request by authorities. So they go through specific, hey, there's the guy that we need to have his communications on Telegram, and Telegram refuses to decrypt and give information even if they have a warrant. So he was breaking pretty much the law. I mean, I don't want to get into details about privacy or freedom of speech. It's a complicated topic, but if your freedom of speech affects somebody else's life, then you got to talk about some responsibilities. And of course, you can say, is the company that make a baseball bat is responsible uh, for somebody get killed with the baseball bat? No, but you're supposed to provide information who bought that baseball bat. That's pretty much how I see it. So he got arrested Saturday night in airport. He landed with his private jet in Paris, and just like while he was flying, you're supposed to provide information when you're going to land to refuel. So they provide information. He's landing in Paris. French authorities right away issued the warrant to arrest him because of his previous issues, and he got arrested. It's what super important to know in this case is that he was flying from Azerbaijan. In Azerbaijan, I mean, I was there many years ago. It's not exactly the top destination for tourists flying your private jet. People fly to more exotic destinations. Azerbaijan, I don't want to hurt people of Azerbaijan. There's really nothing there out so cool to fly your private jet, except in exactly the same time, Comrade Putin was in Azerbaijan too. So most likely he flew to talk to Putin. I don't know about what, of course, what was the discussion. And here you can have a bunch of versions what happened. Version number one is Durov realized that he needs to hide from Putin, and he basically allowed to be arrested. He knew that they want him in France. He knew that if he will tell them that he's landing in France, he'll get arrested. I mean, it's a kind of like conspiracy theories, but most likely he came to Azerbaijan exactly the time as Vladimir Putin is to have talked to Putin about who knows what. Quite possible that Putin quietly was using Telegram and using Durov while Durov was telling everyone else this is encrypted, there's a privacy, the Putin and his FSB service had access, maybe somewhat, or he basically give him a deadline, I need access. Because right now, who is most upset is Russia. There's so many protests. They actually have a protest at the French embassy. The Russian lawmakers, they expressed their protest against that West is squishing freedom of speech. Out of all countries, except maybe North Korea, China, some others, where the freedom of speech, there's no freedom of speech, is in Russia. And suddenly they're so concerned. Apparently, Russian government just issued order that every Russian lawmaker needs to delete everything of Telegram, all the business correspondence. So they are panicking because that was their main tool that Russian army uses, Russian government uses, and generally. So I'm not sure what's going on. What French authorities want from him, but it's a big deal. In Russia, it's a huge deal. Of course, suddenly they worried about freedom of speech, while they also demanded from Durov access to Telegram communications, and he refused allegedly. But yeah, there's one thing: if you get arrested on the streets of Russia for whatever reason, they'll check your phone right away. They go to Telegram, so to see your conversation. So it's like I talked to one guy and he said, "Yeah, I talked to you." Then I delete all my conversations because he asked me to send him back some link. I like, dude, I sent you last week. Like, oh, I delete conversations right away in case something happens. They'll be looking at your conversations, and I want them to see that I talked to someone from United States who supports Ukraine. So this is what's going on. It's a big deal, and I know most Americans not even aware of Telegram, but it's a big deal for Russians right now. So that's all I know. But yeah, it's said I use Telegram, and we'll see what happens. And maybe it will be shut down. Who knows? But I said in European Union, there's a law that you're supposed to cooperate with authorities because you're responsible if the bad guys are using your app for whatever things. You have to cooperate to provide information. So this is what I know. The question from random dude: when there was product shortages during the COVID, did you feel like you were back in USSR? Not really. It was just like a little reminder. Still, there was so much stuff on the shelves that after growing up in the Soviet Union, it's hard to reach the level. The only time American shelves looks like Soviet Union is during a hurricane. When hurricanes are coming, and Americans run in the stores and buy everything. When you see total empty shelves, then I'm like, yeah, that looks like Soviet Union. But like we had this situation, my wife couldn't understand. She sent me to buy some Pillsbury pie, whatever that stuff you buy and they make pies with it. And I tell her there's none, and she doesn't believe me. I was like, girl, I can get you generic brand. I hate generic brand. I want only Pillsbury. There's no Pillsbury pie crust. And she grew up in the United States. God bless her heart. She couldn't understand how is it possible there is no Pillsbury pie crust for sale. And that was during COVID. So yeah, that was I felt like they couldn't process this whole information. Like it's always on the shelf. Like, what are you talking about? I like, there's none. So yeah, it was a little bit flavor, but no way, no. Especially I told you, in I experienced all the levels of the stores. Kiev was one of the best supplied stores. So usually you might have to stay in line, but all the basic goods were available. Now you go out in the village in northern Ukraine, they bring bread 3 times a week, and you have to stay in an hour before bread truck arrives. Otherwise, if you late, bread will be gone. People will buy it off. So, and the store was like bare bones. You have matches, a couple brands of cigarettes, some alcohol, maybe lemonade, salt, sugar, some candy. That's it. It was like that was empty store. And of course, they even didn't bother to sell butter because people were making their own butter, and butter was so expensive, 350 a kilo. Oh my goodness. So there's a comment about when Grandpa went to East Germany in the 80s, friend of his gave Skoda owner some spark plugs. So yeah, shortage. Yeah, spark plugs, everything. It was yeah. A question from Chuck: can Soviet citizen own land? No, all land was owned by the government. Land in Marxist logic is means of production because you can grow crops. And socialism is when there's no private ownership of means of production. So land could belong to collective farm or a government. So even you have a house, like my grandparents had a log cabin in the village, they didn't own the land. They owned the house, but land was the belonged to collective farm, and collective farm was nice enough to allow to have a garden. Once again, it was just assigned to my grandparents, but they never owned it. All right, we got another donation. Thank you so much, CD Mock 87. He says, funny thing, the timing of release of the Greyhound video, the scary terminal in Chicago closing, and there is a fight to where keep the passengers now. Amtrak fighting city to keep passengers away. Huh. Well, in Chicago itself, that was a big ass terminal. Like I was there another time by accident. To say it, I went with my family, with my wife to Chicago to stay over the weekend. It was sometimes in the winter, and if I remember correctly, because of the storm or something, I usually we used there's a rail connection between South Bend, Indiana, and downtown Chicago. It's a south. Anyways, there's some name of that railway. So we usually, instead of driving to Chicago, just take a train. It takes longer, but it was shut down, so we had to take Greyhound bus to get back to Michigan. South Shore, it's called South Shore, and there was a while. So we went to Greyhound bus station, got tickets, all good. And then I told my wife, like, hey, I gotta go use the bathroom, and she's like, please don't be long, come back quick. I don't like it here. I'm like, looks fine, But yeah, that was a Gary, Indiana bus stop. I was horrified. Nothing happened. No one harassed me. Anything else, but it just I had so much money with me because I work at the farm for so long. I made good money, and I just like, oh my god. So yeah, that was scary. All right, let's see. We got Spain, Boston. We got Denmark. Thank you so much. UK. Going to Bulgaria. Never been in Bulgaria. Sweden. Yay. Massachusetts. Bristol, England. Look at that. We got only flag, but I guess you're from Switzerland. That's one thing. I have a small bucket list. I would like to visit Egypt and see pyramids. And I would like to visit Switzerland to visit Davos. Back in the day, I was corresponding with a girl from Davos, and that's improved me English. My English got so much better because we were corresponding, and she was great pen pal. She was writing interesting letters, send me postcards. So it was like best pen pal I had, and she was from Davos, and I saw pictures, postcards, and I want to see that town, and I would like to visit Japan. That's pretty much my kind of short bucket list for traveling, and of course, within the United States. I still need to visit Yellowstone, Yosemite, or as Donald Trump say, Yosemite. I already did Sequoia National Park. It's a good story there. um, I might tell you that story, though it's not related to Soviet Union. And I hiked Grand Canyon all the way to the bottom, back up on one day. So I did quite a bit. I visited Niagara Falls 5 times maybe, both sides, Canadian side, American side. So I saw a lot of stuff already. Many of my American friends like lagging behind. I did Mammoth Caves with my kids in Kentucky. I did that. So I've seen quite a bit. Yeah, it's there's still a lot. I mean, there's so many national parks, arches, and everything. But yeah, I'm watching across Lake Michigan from Chicagoland. West is right behind me there. So yeah, let's see. Iowa, Vietnamese from USA. Thank you for the videos. Watching them a lot recently. Thank you so much. Let's see what else we got. Some questions. So, question now. I'll go to the bottom now. Were your parents baptized? Yes, I was baptized right after I was born, but my parents weren't really religious. It was just kind of like this is what you do. So I had a godfather and godmother. I got baptized. Of course, I was too little to remember. Uh, my parents were the same way too, but we never went to church, nothing like that. And then my brother was born in 1986. When I was 15, my mother even didn't bother to baptize him. He only had to get baptized when he was wanted to get married because although his future in-laws were Soviet intelligentsia, white collars, they were secretly, I think, mother was religious, like secretly Christian religious girl. So when she discovered that her future son-in-law is not baptized, it was like, ugh, you have to get baptized, otherwise you don't get in my permission to get baptized. So my brother got baptized in his 20s. So it's pretty wild. So yeah. Does the government still send prisoners to Siberia? Oh, they send them everywhere, but there's a lot of camps in Siberia. Yep. Um, they call them, they don't call them camps now. It's colonia, colony, but it's the same thing. Trudovaya Colonia, labor colony. We got Belgium. Let's see what else we got here. About empty shelves. There's a comment about recent Finnish video. Did you have someone? I had someone promise to give me translation of that Finnish video about Soviet car service, but it's a lot of work to do, so I never got anything. I'm surprised that YouTube doesn't offer. So there's a comment. Привет, Ushanka. I can't help noticing the Trotsky book on the shelf. Opinions on the guy. I don't have just a Trotsky book. I got a lot of Trotsky books, my friend. I got this stuff right here. It's the Bulletin of the Fourth International. It says 1991. I read a lot of him. It's really sad. I need to make actually this video I didn't make about him because this is, in my opinion, how pathetic Stalin is or was. He erased completely the guy who did so much for the Soviet Union, for its creation, for its survival. I mean, he was the one who was basically running the October coup, which later started being called Great October Revolution. Until 1927 or 29, it was called October coup. It was nothing. It was just a coup. It was Trotsky who basically made it successful. So I have quite a few of his books. Stalin's School of Falsification by Trotsky. I had it somewhere in my life. So yeah, for a while I was quite into. I don't think Soviet Union would go any other direction, but it's just as sad that in the history of so he was completely removed, like wiped out. We knew about him, but it's like you never. It's like it's a bad joke. It's like your gay cousin. Everyone knows that he's there, but no one talks about him. I know it's a bad joke, but that's what I heard Americans say. So similarly, Trotsky, we had jokes about him, but any history book you don't see like he didn't exist. and he created Red Army. He won literally civil war with his Red Army. What he did, and then because Stalin hated him so much, he got completely wiped out and then killed in the end. So I don't think it will make Soviet Union any better. He had a theory of permanent revolution, so he was kind of continuing Lenin concept, and then before that Marx, that you need to keep on going with revolutions in other countries, so the whole world will be socialist. I think Stalin decided to use different approach and occupy countries and turn them socialist, and make them part of Soviet Union, which he started in 1939, 1940, right? But then you can ask Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia. He tried it to Finland. You know, he created Moldova out of chunks of Romania. But otherwise, he was really smart, genius in many regards. There's new information coming up about him that he told Lenin that he can't be, doesn't want to be next like leader of Soviet Union because Russian people will never accept a Jew as their leader. So that's kind of recent what I heard from a Russian historian. So he was a big deal, but unfortunately he got completely removed from the history of the Soviet Union, which I think is unfair. But I don't think he'll make any changes. It's just he was also that kind of thinking that it was the best thing for the people, but just socialism is ideal system for ideal people, but you just don't have ideal people. So just like anarchy, you have a concept that people generally are good. It's the state and the capitalism make them bad, but in reality, there's a lot of people that are not good and they mess up everything. But yeah, it's great stories. His books to read. My Life is fantastic book to read, and all the explanation like that's Stalin School of Falsifications. It was a good read. Okay, we got another donation. Thank you so much, Koala 1203. You're always very supportive of my work. I appreciate that. And we're almost at 100 likes. We need 4 more likes, and we're gonna have 100. I'll probably be wrapping up in about 15 minutes. We're approaching 2 hours. My throat tells me we're about done. I'm very surprised that Ukraine managed to hold onto their occupied Kursk territory despite the fact that Russia is supposed to be a nuclear power. I wonder how embarrassed Putin would be if Zelensky visit Kursk Oblast. I don't know if it's Zelensky might do it. He's a former showman and he knows how to make show must go on to do. So I won't be surprised because they'll be really kind of like bitch slapping Putin doing it. Well, it's if you look, I don't know if some people watch UFC fights, without rules. So basically, what the situation came that Russia was just kind of choking Ukraine, Donetsk region, just and suddenly they decided to start punching Putin in the gut. Russia put all their, they don't have. It's still officially not a war. It's a special military operation. So they doing this pee dance. You can get in trouble in America, in Russia for saying it's a war. So they don't have enough forces to actually have full-blown war because it's not war. So Ukraine made a correct decision. Instead of the West was getting like, okay, so you're gonna slowly lose, and then eventually we're gonna give up and give Putin what he wants just to stop the war. Suddenly Ukraine like, look, we can win, we can take over territories directly in Russia. So it's a huge embarrassment, and so it's basically punching in somewhere where it's not protected. There maybe will be more punches coming up. They realize that if you let Putin just keep on hammering, into Donetsk region, sure, we can put additional lines of defense, but let's show the world that we can punch back and punch hard. So it's huge embarrassment. Absolutely, it's because I follow on Telegram a lot of Russian pro-Putin channels because I want to see what they're talking about, and oh my goodness, they are embarrassed. So yeah, it worked great. Um, they figure out correctly, and so I hope there'll be more stuff like that. Another donation, a question from James Valera. Thank you so much. What do you think will come after Putin? I think it's one of the reason why the West and the United States don't do the full help to Ukraine, because they don't know. No one knows, and the main concern, of course, is the nuclear weapons that Russia has. That's why one of the reasons America wasn't really happy when Soviet Union fell apart, and suddenly there's Ukraine with nuclear weapons, Kazakhstan with nuclear weapons. So I think they're afraid of that scenario, and then I don't know how much they are concerned about, if Russia disappears, what's going to happen with China and what China would do. So all this game is going on. The way I see it, scenario is, there will be more. Russian empire is the last old-fashioned land empire that still remains. So it's doomed. Sooner or later, it will collapse, and going into war is pretty much, they kind of speed up the process. I think Putin didn't mean to it, but there'll be more countries. There'll be Dagestan will be separate country. Chechnya will gain its independence again. Tatarstan. I mean, Russian Empire. It's like, like sometimes they catch a shark and they cut it open and there's a license plates. All the junk, boxer gloves. So Russia was eating up these territories. Sometimes it's, they spent 100 years occupying Caucasian, but they never assimilated, digested those regions. They still have their identities. They're Muslims. They don't like Russians a lot of times. So sooner or later, those things will come out, and that's what that will be next stage. I think Russia will at least lose those regions, Caucasian regions, and then who knows. You need to remember China lost huge territories to Russia during the Second Opium War, because Russia took advantage of Chinese situation and basically took huge territories. All the far east of Russia used to be Chinese. So, and you think Chinese said like, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, we don't worry about it. I mean, that's a big deal. I think for China, they biding their time. So that's what I think. 11 time zones. I wonder where you're at. So that's what I think. So there's a comment. A former Intel pro in Finland said that Russians generally hold on two truths, a public one and the one they say in the kitchen table. Was that so? Was that self-censoring so strong? Oh yeah, I mean, the kitchen talks are a famous thing. I mean, especially among intelligentsia, they gather together, sit in the kitchen, they smoke and talk and have food, because that's one of the joys of living in dictatorship. It's only one opinion. It's only one truth, is what government tells you. It's what the correct thing. So yeah, the kitchen talks. I mean, my family, we were blue collar. We weren't politicized, so didn't have that going on. But it was just like, there's a lot of red noise, all these red banners everywhere, posters of Lenin and Brezhnev, and all this, the party and the people are united. All that stuff, which is just so much waste of money and energy, because no one was paying attention to it. But just this dual life was really, I think, kind of annoying. And once a kid, as I said, I had a great time, and because I was born kind of in the last stage, so I enjoyed my safe childhood, being a latchkey kid, not having all that junk entertainment. So I grew up in this, I consider, good environment, good education. But then when I finally started feeling the cages, of the cage that we lived in, as a teenager, all that collapsed and everything was available. So it was a perfect timing for me. I feel bad for kids that were born later, because suddenly all that Western cartoons and all that stuff just poured it in. And so, like, where's that book? I have a guy who lives in England. Where is he? Just a second, guys. I'll see if I find it. Oh, that is book. There you go. So Leon Kaminsky, so he's a Jewish kid from Moscow. So he is behind me. So he actually experienced the onslaught of Hollywood movies and video games and all that stuff. I don't remember, he may be 10 years my junior, but he got all that on. So this whole book is Survive and Post USSR Era on Hollywood Diet. So it's available on Amazon, and it's crazy. Like, I enjoy reading it. It's a lot. Like, he got really hooked on Hollywood. Like, he knows all the movies, all the actors, all this. Just it really affected him. So he was a nerdy guy who got into like American nerds that dig Star Wars. They will do everything for that. So it was interesting to see, and I felt bad for him, like because I was already in my 20s, so I watched the movies, all that, but I had some posters on my walls. Okay, I had Arnold Schwarzenegger and stuff, but it's like his generation. They were like in their 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, and they got just all that just kind of like a flooded, and your brains are not protected. It's almost like I don't do drugs. I don't know about drugs, but first hits are the strongest, right? That's what it really hits you, and then it's kind of tapers off. That's what their brains got hit, was all that flood of movies, cartoons, all that American culture. So I enjoyed the book, but it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy that I was already old enough to have some kind of resistance develop, but it was crazy. So anyways, yeah, I was still in touch with him. He found me on through my Ushanka show, and sent me the book to read, and I was like, dude, that's actually good. I told him he needs to make a book less about movies and more, because yeah, he has a lot of good stories about like living in Moscow at that time, and kiosks and all this selling, buying, getting VCR, and just how his family immigrated to Germany. I was like, you can build on that, like have a good book, because this is a lot just movies, 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 movies. So if you're a movie junkie, you're gonna dig this book. Would you like to hike the Appalachian Trail? Maybe. I didn't research that much. I did something really crazy. This is Michigan. I did ODRAM 1 day ride across Michigan. It's about 150 miles. So from Montague on the west coast to Bay City east coast, I rode the bike in 1 day. Took me 13 hours. I almost died. So yeah, but it made bigger those things that you keep in your things, the size of the fish canned food. But yeah, that was pretty crazy. So yeah, that was my co-workers asked me like, hey, we see you ride the bike a lot, do you want to join us? And I was like, there's no way I'm gonna make it. And they're like, yeah, well, the final stage of this bike ride, it's gonna be all about handling suck. And you know how to handle suck. You work at the farm for years, you heard your stories. So we believe you're strong enough, because it's gonna be nothing just handling suck. And they were correct. Like last maybe 50 miles, it was first I was riding bike, and I was like, oh wow, it's a different area. So I was like looking around, and central Michigan, there's a parts where there's a Amish. So that was cool. But then, as you keep on going, getting more tired, and your butt getting hurt because of the seat, it kind of, your view is going like this, and then just like this tunnel, you don't see anything, you just want to see finish. So that was bad. And anyway, there was a, like, yeah, they were taking down they make it they pump the finish inflatable, right? So they started letting the air down, and we're just showing up behind the corner. So we were the last ones that made it. We're like, wait, I went through. So anyway, all right. So we got one more question. We'll be wrapping up. So Jeff asking, thank you so much for your donation. Appreciate it. So for you who don't know, my brother Artyom, he's younger than me, 15 years. So he was born in 1986, the year of Chernobyl and the year of Challenger. in September. So he is almost 40, right? He's 38 years old. He got drafted into Ukrainian army a couple months ago. So of course, that's stressful. He went through the boot camp, and he worked for a long time in electronics. So we were wondering, what. So he works as a svezist. So now he's in the front lines in Kharkiv region, working as a communication specialist. So yeah, we are uh, nervous. I'm not religious, but I say, everyone is who is religious praying for him, and I'm staying in touch. He's doing okay. I sent him ask people what is the best shoes, because the shoes they issue in Ukrainian army not the best ones apparently. So I sent him some Reebok tactical summer shoes that he has, and I'm buying now shoes for his like a full time. So yeah, he's basically said he's working with guys that trying to knock down the Russian drones. They have a special equipment to jam the drones, and they use the machine guns or whatever to shut them down. So he's supporting those guys. So yeah, it's he he has mixed feelings. We'll say that he was never like just like me. He never had a lot like being hardcore nationalist. He was just neutral, but he said, yeah, there's so much happened in my life in the last 6 months, whatever, than many years before. So if there's something, if everything will be all right, he will make it through, survives. Everything else, there'll be something to be proud to tell your kids and grandkids. That yes, I was a part of the defending Ukraine. So yeah, I'm trying to support him as much as I can, staying in touch. And yeah, we are worried he has a 10-year-old daughter. So yeah, it's a stressful time. So yeah, that's thing is just I helped to raise that kid because I was 15 years older. So it's he is like my kid. I raised him. So now it's just the whole concept of think that he is in the military. He sent his picture, and it just yeah, it's but as I was mentioned before, uh, sure, Ukraine could just give up. Just let Putin annex the entire Ukraine, just like Hitler annexed Austria back in 1939 or 38. And there was not a single Austrian killed when an annexation happened. But guess what happened later? Almost 300,000 Austrians died. 270,000 of them was soldiers that died on Eastern Front, and then the rest were people, civilians that died from the Allies bombing Austria because it was a part of German Reich. So Austria paid a huge price for being happy to be annexed by Hitler. And they lost huge amount of population. They didn't want to have war with Germany. They end up having war against Soviet Union. So this is a situation with Ukraine. It's doom. It's bad if you this or that. Yeah, you could just say, yeah, we don't want bloodshed, but then Putin would take those troops, Ukrainians, and throw them against Moldova, then throw them against Baltic states, because that guy is on the roll, and someone needs to stop him, and it's going to be Ukraine. So yeah, this is a situation with my brother. Said it's scary. It's I already know people like a girl that I used to date in Ukraine. Her brother got killed a couple of years ago, and he was 1 year younger than me. But so he was in the beginning of the war. So yeah, this is unfortunately, Ukraine has to pay the price because West, just like in the beginning of World War II, West is doing the dance, trying to figure out how to, you know, give Hitler something to prevent the war. Like I think Churchill said, they had a choice between humility and war, and they chose to humility, and they end up getting war anyway. So this is what Ukraine facing, and it's what's West. A lot of them, unfortunately, don't understand. We are in the World War III. Since February of 2022, we are, as the whole world, in the World War III. In 10, 15 years, that's what historians will decide and write books. because Putin wasn't stopped when he attacked Georgia. Putin wasn't stopped. He did other things, and then he got 2014 when he took Crimea. Some silly sanctions. They still had Olympics. They still had a 2018 soccer, European soccer competition. So Putin like, oh, they're totally cool with that, sure. And next was Ukraine, because whatever they are going on in their minds, this the whole concept that Russian Empire cannot exist without Ukraine being a Russian Empire. So Ukraine gave up Crimea without a fight, and now we have a full blown war. Like dealing with Gopnik, when you give a Gopnik a cigarette, you lost your watch already. And this is pretty much, you let Putin have it, and he will take it, and he'll want more. So anyway, so yeah, this is the kind of stressful part, and it's every day I'm checking Telegram to check on my brother, and he never was good in communicating in detail. So it's like pulling teeth. He's like, yeah, I'm fine. Okay, I don't want to bother you. Just let me know that you're fine. So I need to know. So, anyways, but yeah, so this is what's going on. It's always price to pay. When you dance with, play with dictators, they don't want to war against Germany, and they end up, London being bombed and all the other places. British thought that if you give a piece of Czechoslovakia, somehow it will give Hitler enough to relax. But they see you're weak, they go after you. You give them a cigarette, watch out for your girlfriend, because next will be watch and then your girlfriend. So this is what's going on. The question about volunteers, honestly, I don't know. I know there's a foreign volunteers. I think they were asking to see if the retired pilots would like to join to fly F-16s. Uh, it's unfortunately, Russian propaganda. They spend so much money, millions, to affect the West, people, because I see all the time that I try to explain that no one sends boxes of cash to Ukraine, millions of dollars, billions of cash, and it's like we need to stop wasting money. It's like money don't go to Ukraine. You need to understand, it's equipment goes to Ukraine. All this stuff that you built for Iraq and you decided you don't want it, or Afghanistan, that's being sent to Ukraine. And the value of what Pentagon and American military, Navy, everyone else learning about that war, it's can you put the price tag on it? It's definitely worth what you spend like 3% of your military budget that you give Pentagon on Ukraine supplying equipment. A lot of it is, Humvees are outdated. Ukrainians appreciate it. All those MRAPs vehicles that built for Iraq war, they're not really great, but better than nothing. So Ukraine takes all that old refuse F-16s. It's not even came from United States. I think came from Dutch. So this whole conversation about, oh, the money we don't want to spend, like, you don't spend money, stays in America. It makes America great again. You manufacture new equipment. You learn. Now the Marines are talking. Oh, we need to do something about drones, because drones it's a new warfare. Where did you learn that? In Ukraine. So it's frustrating. I'm trying to my best to explain, but it's just it's America did it before beginning of World War II. It was America First Committee. There were Nazis marching downtown New York City. The most prominent people in America were talking that we can make conversation with Germany. Hitler is a good guy. We don't need to support Great Britain. I mean, it's the same movie all over and over again, just like we had before World War II. Now we have the same conversation. World War III is going on. We just can't accept it yet. So anyway, so all right, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate your support. Thank you for donation as always. I appreciate your likes, your comments, and everything else. And thank you for spending some time today on Sunday with me. And we'll soon talk to you again. До побачення. Goodbye.